Okay. So you really want to know, huh? Fine. I'm gonna start by telling you this. And this is important, so listen up. Your entire life, this one and many others, you've been a god who uses its absolute power to make yourself powerless. Entire cultures, especially this one, have all been afraid of their weaknesses, supposedly, when in reality, they've all been afraid of their power. This goes beyond the matrix of reality. This is something much deeper than that. This is eternal. This is fully realizing your consciousness. This is infinite. This is evolution. This is our divine right.
Welcome everybody to the podcast, Bootsy Greencast, because that is the name that my mom hated the most. So that's what I went with. And I'm really excited to have an awesome guest today, all the way from the other side of the world, down under, where the toilets flush in the opposite direction. I'm really excited. We're going to get into some really heavy topics, epigenetics, and I don't think the establishment likes that very much. So thank God for my sponsors, Content Safe. My friends, Content Safe, man, they distribute your content for you all over the deepest reaches of the internet and into the blockchain where nobody really knows what's going on. It's kind of like the cloud. It's wild out there, folks. But I'm really excited to have Jessica Mcilveen. Am I pronouncing that right? Is it Mcilveen?
Yeah, you got it. First time.
Okay,
That's
wonderful. She is the owner of the Happy Home Movement. She is doing some really interesting studies in epigenetics and helping people with disabilities as well. I've been looking over your stuff, Jessica, and it is really fascinating. I can't wait to get schooled on this. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on this poorly named podcast.
Which makes it perfect. I love it. So I'm so happy to be here.
No, I'm so happy that I got the tour of your office. It's really cool. You got some George R.R. Martin and Tom Clancy in the background, just in case it's a slow day.
Yeah. I got a lot of reading to do.
That's right. But no, your work looks super fascinating. I'm really interested to learn more about this. And, I'm doing the Wim Hof breathing stuff every day. So I had to do a quick Google search of epigenetics. What is this? And maybe we can start there because, I'm pretty basic. My audience might be a little bit beyond my level, but maybe we can just start talking about that and how you got into that.
Yeah, totally. So I'll start with how I got into it and then I'll share what it's all about. So I got into it. I'd started a company, kids yoga therapy, and I was working one-on-one with children using yoga as the therapeutic means for children with special needs and those that have been impacted by trauma. And I wanted to get out of that. I wanted to stop that. Yoga therapy is a powerful intervention. However, my beliefs in terms of supporting the notion that children have a problem that are the problem that needs to be fixed goes against every fiber in my being and my body. And that's what my business was being used for. So I met somebody and he practices epigenetics. He does it in a different field. He does it with coaches. And so he did mine. He tested me and went through my own epigenetic blueprint. And it absolutely blew me away with what the insights that it had to share about me in terms of my behavior, in terms of how my brain thinks, how I process the world, my body, how it functions, what it requires to feel healthy and well and in balance. Just everything about me, all of the internal dialogue that I have about myself, all the things I hated about myself. And sure, I might still have some things to touch on, but all of the things that I hated about myself, why my body shape is this shape, why I think those thoughts, why don't I have that urge, why don't I have that motivation with people, like all of these things. And everything finally made sense once I had my epigenetics tested. And I figured there is something to this. And families and children, they need to be exposed to this because we are working in a system and these children are in a system that do not care. They do not come from strength or wanting to build resilience or confidence or simply understand them and accept the differences. They want to change them and mold them into one thing, right? One collective being. So this is my way of making sure that children have a chance to be seen as they are, the perfectly imperfect little creatures we all are.
I love that. Like you're a motivational speaker. I'm prepared at this point to be up for the next 3 days just based on your last statement. Like, because I believe that too. I believe that each and every one of us, like, I mean, I'm trying to do some changing in the physical sense, right? Like I've been working out, like picking up some, weights and stuff and doing some things like that. But like, as far as like our fingerprint, like who we really are at the core level, I think we're perfect. We're perfect beings, each and every one of us. And the idea that, systems and people want to conform human beings who are expressions of God and very sacred, in my opinion, into little minion robots is not only distasteful, but I mean, you might even could like pull the evil word out, or like just wrong, just like, whether it's intentional or accidental, it doesn't really matter. Like it's just messed up. So that makes me like really excited. And I love it when in the first like 5 minutes of an interview with somebody, really connect on a level like that. So I think that what you're working on is noble and incredibly valuable. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Specifically kids. So you were working with kids doing yoga, which is the cutest thing I've ever heard. Probably when I was a ski instructor, we would like bring the kids in for like hot cocoa because it was cold, and they would like get blown up the hill backwards, they're like, oh my God, I'm from Florida. And then so we would take them in for cocoa and be like, all right, so what do you guys, and so that we would be like, all right, let's do some yoga or something, just because they have so much energy. And then we get back out there and start skiing. And again, like just get blown over, like a tiny little tree. They'd be like, can we go make yoga now? And they were so cute. What got you into making yoga with kids?
Yeah. So then the backstory behind the yoga company was, so I'm a social worker and started out in that field, and I worked in child protection and child safety. So that's what it's called here in Australia anyway. So these are children that have been removed from their homes and then put into foster homes. And, I loved this job wholly and completely. I loved it. But again, working from a system where, big behaviors from these children that have experienced trauma are made entirely wrong. Yes, we're trying to understand them from a trauma background. However, foster parents are simply not even interested in understanding why their behaviors impact them. So why is it triggering them? Why is a massive outburst or yelling or swearing at them impacting them? Is it really a big deal? No, it's really not. However, for all of these reasons, these are the reasons that children are being removed 20 times from homes. And so we say, well, is there really a difference between keeping them in the home and putting them in foster care? Not really. Like it's just as traumatic as them staying in the home. That's not helpful with their biological parents. So, I would have to go to meetings and advocate and, for these kids, and I just couldn't be a part of it again. I just couldn't. I wanted to make my own rules. I wanted to help them in a different way. And all the services we were providing these children, they did not take into consideration the body. The body is where the trauma is stored. The body is what is communicating with our brain. And, I had my period of time where I had my own anxiety attacks and panic attacks. And I was given medication, and no, that doesn't align with me. So I put them in the bin, and I decided to commit to yoga and meditation. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, all symptoms gone. Do I know why my body reacted this way? Do I know what I was reacting to? Not really. I still don't know, but that doesn't matter. So yoga and meditation allowed me to connect in with my body and get to know it and not be fearful of it anymore, because I was terrified. And that's all these children are reacting to, is a terrified body. So that was my motivation to creating kids yoga therapy. And it absolutely made a difference. It absolutely worked. I had many foster children that were non-verbal. And then after a few weeks, they were then verbal. a dramatic impact. But and again, and I needed to get out of that to start working with the parents instead, because it needs to be a top-down approach for these children. So that's how I got into it. And, I'm so glad that I did. It was awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like a really cool sort of entrance into your path now. And I can absolutely attest to the trauma thing. It's like, so why so many of us call ourselves like coaches or guides, It's like psychology and sociology and, psychiatry and those types of things. While you have a lot of, pieces of paper and stuff, I think people try to work around that. Because I can't really go to school for 8 years, but I want to help people, and trauma is stored in the body. Not to throw shade, because people are out there doing an incredible job and wanting to help people. But I think a lot of times some therapy is just spinning wheels and re-traumatizing, frankly.
Absolutely.
I've experienced it. And so it's like, well, when you go in and you just peel a scab off every week, like what are you really doing at that point other than just basically re-injuring yourself over and over again? So working with people with the body does know, like you said, that's where our traumas are stored. And working with people in that sense, and through yoga and just having fun and opening them up, that sounds like a really cool way to kind of get that process opening. And I'm sure it was incredibly impactful to hear those kids open up to you as well. So that's basically paved the way for where you are now, doing your own thing, which takes a tremendous amount of courage. Can you talk a little bit about coming from that world and beginning your own foray?
Yeah. So it was a bit of a slippery slide into this new company. And I was quite fortunate that a lot of the parents that I had worked with previously within kids yoga therapy, they followed me into this new company. They were curious. They wanted to know this new framework. They wanted this new structure of understanding their child. So it was cool and pretty easy to get started with all of this epigenetic stuff. And now it's really, so I've been in this new company for about 12 months now, and it's really just starting to kick off now. Really, the word is starting to get out there. And, as a business owner, that's always, what your mind is always on: marketing, okay, leads, exposure. All right, what do I need to do? How do I need to communicate? And it takes a load of energy. But so I feel like it's really building now, and I'm seeing the explosions, which is awesome. And I have a great team and mentorship around me, which you so need if you run your own business or company. So I'm very, surrounded by great people to make this happen for me and for the world.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome. And I can totally relate, it's like a solopreneur, and I just started bringing people to kind of help me here and there as much as I can. I love writing people checks. It feels good, doesn't it? Isn't that the best? You're like, and there's some more money. Yeah, how's that? Yeah, that's more than I said I was going to pay you, huh? Yeah, how do you like me now? No, it's not. No, it's not like that. But it is nice to be able to help people, because people need work, and if we can find it and incorporate as many people in as possible. So that's good. Congratulations. I'm glad things are exploding. So that means good things for my podcast. So that's cool. I'm excited, but on the epigenetics front, talk about what you're doing. So like you meet somebody, what's it like? So let's say me and my family want to become clients of yours. What does it look like?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I just obviously would find out what you want and need. And so epigenetic testing takes about 60 minutes. It's non-invasive. And so what we do is we're testing the skeletal system. Okay, so we're measuring the skeletal system. So there's a whole heap of measurements, and then there is a whole heap of health questions, right? This is how we determine your epigenetic blueprint or health type as well. So the thing is that 5% of us are our genes and 95% of us are our epigenetics. And it's our 95% that is not paid attention to. So to give a really brief overview of what epigenetics is from a behavioral standpoint is we've got a dominant hormone in each of us. Okay. It was present in utero, and that is what has guided and dictated how we've developed. Okay. So there's 6 dominant hormones that humans can have. Now, depending on which dominant hormone has been in our body since birth, it will have dictated which organs developed more strongly and first. It dictates our motivations, how we think, what we're rewarded by, how we communicate with people, what foods and what times of the day we need to eat. It impacts, do we like connection? Is it a priority for us? Is it not? So we have all of these behavioral characteristics of what our epigenetic blueprint tells us. And so then you can imagine when I've got parents and their children, so if you came to me with your children and you're finding a certain behavior is frustrating, chances are, and it's been my experience, that a lot of parents have the complete opposite epigenetic blueprint to their children. So for example, I've got some parents where they're called diplomats, right? And they need slower mornings because their dominant hormone is serotonin, which is produced in the gut, and it's produced in the morning. Now, if they don't have a slow and steady morning, maybe cortisol creeps in, maybe adrenaline creeps in, and it actually cuts off the gut's ability to produce the serotonin, which is the pleasure hormone. Okay. So they need slower mornings. Now, if they've got little crusader children, which is what I am, I'm a crusader. Now we're good to go in the morning. We're like, let's hit it. Let's go. Right. Dopamine is my dominant hormone. Now, if they've got these kids that are like, want to rock it in the morning, and mum and dad are not getting their serotonin hit because kids are stressing them out. Hey, let's face it, getting ready for school is every parent's, I wouldn't say worst nightmare, but it's something that they don't enjoy a lot of the time. So they're just not getting their needs fulfilled in the mornings. And the impact of not getting that serotonin production in the morning is huge, massive. There's digestion issues, there's sleep issues, there's health issues, there's inflammation issues, there is behavioral issues. Mum and dad don't have as much patience as they'd like. Like, it impacts everything. So as soon as mum and dad can understand this about their children and understand it about themselves, everything changes. We then go from frustration to understanding. That's what happens. Then we understand. We're not frustrated anymore. So that's just a general overview on how it works.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, and to think that 95% is epigenetic. I mean, that is crazy. So how is it that, and I know, this is probably a kind of a loaded question because my dad's in the medical field. He's a pharmacist. So
Got it.
he tries to be like even more, he's such a nerd about it. Like, he used to watch all these documentaries when we were kids and talk about how difficult it is to understand genetics and all this kind of stuff. And so I can only imagine that there's like a whole lot to unravel here, but if you can simplify it, like, why would it be that a kid would have different epigenetics than their parents? Any idea?
Yeah, good question. So they're going to have the same genes, right? They've got the same genes, but epigenetics is, if you think about it, so we've got the genes and then we've got epigenetics. And I know you all can't see my hands at the moment. I'm trying to use my hands to explain, but I'll try to use my words. So we've got the genes, we've got the epigenetics. Now, the epigenetics is what turns on, activates, supports, or destroys, right? Different parts of our genome, right? Our genes, okay, which is our lifestyle, which is the hormones that are present or not present in our mum's body too, right? If mum is super duper stressed and there is loads of cortisol when she is pregnant, if there is stress, if there is anything going on for her, then this is going to impact our own development, right? What is present in our own body. So really our environment in utero, and this is only starting to be discussed in the last maybe 5 years plus to 10 maybe, if that, is how important in utero really is. So is mum getting sleep? What are these other stress hormones in her body? What are the good hormones? These are all the things that then dictate what becomes present for us. What are the foods she's eating, right? Because that plays a really big part too. So all of that plays a part in what becomes active for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the epigenetics are the thing that sort of influences the genetics. I might be simplifying, but
that is a really cool, simple way of saying it. Exactly.
Okay.
So, and that's the power we have. So, because a lot of like the old way of thinking was that we were victims of our genes. So, yeah, my granddad has had a heart attack, so I'm genetically prone. Well, you're prone because that's the lifestyle, right? You grow up in a similar environment. Yeah, that's why you're prone, not because it's genetic, because it's the epigenetics then, because they're activated by your lifestyle, which supports the unhealthy body that then has a heart attack, right? It's not that it's genetic, it's that it's supported by the epigenetics and then the environment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. It means that we're a lot more sort of malleable than we maybe previously thought, which makes sense to me, like coming from like the self-help movement and, understanding that we're constantly making new neural connections in our brain and how patterns work.
Yeah, it's the same as the brain, which is a new thing in the last maybe 15 to 20 years.
Yeah. And so here we are, like always forming these new habits and ideas. And so I see these as sort of metaphysical entities too, based on some of the works that I've read, like Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil, for instance, where they talk about the law of hypnotic rhythm. And so like this law of hypnotic rhythm is like this thing where you create a habit and it like becomes like a little monster, and it like basically just continues to entice you. And the more you feed it, the more it grows. And so but it's really just a connection, right, in our brain, or like the way that we're interfacing in our body with epigenetics. It's so interesting and so cool. What a cool thing to work on. So you go in, mom and dad are diplomatic, and then the kids are crusaders. What's the sort of solution for that? How do you kind of like be like, all right, here's how we're gonna like rule the roost and kind of get things, kind of in a little bit of a flow?
Yeah. So, because at the moment, so I do online programs, right, with all of this. And in my current program at the moment, most of my mums are diplomats and most of their children are crusaders, which makes me laugh so much. Because I get it, right? Me being a crusader, I can really talk into this and I can really understand it. Obviously, I don't want to put every child into a box, either a crusader box or put me in a crusader box. This is just a way of understanding us, right? We can fit into many boxes. Mm-hmm. So what needs to happen? Well, firstly, diplomat parents often, they can't really understand why their children are they're emotionless, often crusaders. And this is because when you have dopamine as the dominant hormone, it actually suppresses emotions, okay? Because dopamine is the task-driven achieving hormone. Go forth, conquer, go. It's like a horse with its blinkers on, right? So dopamine is released when a task is achieved. It's the achievement hormone. So I am driven to achieve. And when I get there, I get a dopamine hit. And when I don't get what I expected, I crash. Okay, I crash. I'm so disappointed. It's like being in a depressive lull. That's what it feels like.
No, we all know what that feels like, I think.
Yeah, right. It's just, really got to come to terms with that experience. So parents then need to understand that because they are task driven, and they are task driven towards a goal they want, not towards a goal or a task that their parents want. So I've got parents, most parents do this, but parents want their child to, the silly things, empty out the dishwasher, clean their room, do all these tasks, right? But these children are so focused and pretty much addicted to whatever they've got going on. They couldn't care less, right? So how do you communicate with that then? How do you move past that barrier? That's the gift here. So a crusader is highly skeptical and will only take action towards something that makes sense to them. If a parent, like a diplomat, because they have the lens of feelings, a crusader does not. A crusader has a lens of thinking, of logic. So if I've got a diplomat mum and they're coming to their crusader child and they're talking about feelings, forget it. You've lost them. See you later. They don't care. They don't see the world through feelings. They see it through logic and thinking. So then adjust the way you speak to them and you may see a different result. Get into the world that they find fascinating so you can find out what really matters to them. So whatever you want done in the household, you can then communicate with them, well, this is why I want it done, and this is how it'll benefit you. Like, what's the most important thing to them? Because that's how you get them on board. That's how you get them enrolled. If it makes sense to them and it's going to benefit them. Otherwise, forget about it. Forget about it. So parents really have to alter, if they choose, the way they communicate. They need to communicate with the way that their child's brain is taking in the information, not how the diplomat mum or dad wants to communicate. Does that make sense?
No, it makes complete sense. So, we're basically considering how the other person is motivated and
Exactly.
what's in it for them, right? Like, it's kind of like web copy. It's like, here's what you'll get. But wait, there's more, right? Like it's all sort of sales in like a weird way. But no, that makes so much sense though. Like, I mean, obviously it doesn't have to be like gross salesy, but I think it's really important. I've said this so many times too, probably people are sick of me hearing it, but it's like, or sick of me saying it. But it's like, I can think about like, they say, put yourself in somebody else's shoes, but you're just putting yourself in their shoes. Like, what good is that? Like, if you're putting somebody else in, or you're putting yourself in someone else's shoes, you're just standing there as yourself, not as them. You need to put you need to put yourself in their psyche and their mentality and think about like, what do things look like from their angle and what is going to motivate them. So that makes a whole lot of sense.
And if I can just touch on what you've said, if we build on that then, because most parents want the most connected, loving relationship with their children, right? And how can you do this if you don't jump into your child's world? We all want to be seen and heard and accepted for who we truly are at our core. So if you have the ability then to understand how your child is processing your behavior, your words, their environment, everything, then you have more of a chance of jumping into their world. And thus, they will start following whatever instructions you've got because they feel like you're in their world. They feel like you really understand them. And that ultimately is the goal, right? To build that connected, loving relationship with their children.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and it should be that from a sincere place, right? Not some like, I'm trying to sell you this course or whatever, it's like, no, like I want to share a world with you. Like I want to show you, something that you are experiencing and help you to understand it in a way and how it can benefit you and serve you. Here's, my offer to you instead of, I've been reading a lot on marketing and sales and all that kind of stuff and had a few conversations recently with different people because like a lot of people really have a lot of ethical issues with, marketing and digital marketing. Because it just seems, and especially as we continue to go down this road, it seems like almost everything's been done, everything's been tried, and these psychological triggers are just being abused and used and all that.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't mean that it has to be that way. And I think honestly, like when you're sincere, such as yourself, and coming into this world, sincerely trying to help people, then, I mean, the language that you use is going to reflect that. And, you're going to show them and come into their world legitimately, not just to get them to do something, but because you just want to understand what is going on in their world. Kids play in pretty cool worlds. Back when I was ski instructing, we would do all kinds of stuff. And boy, I got into a lot of trouble. We would be throwing snowballs from the lift and I would get serious talking to.
So fun. So
you're not supposed to do that, Jessica. Like you're not supposed to do that.
It's the rules. I know all these rules.
Yeah, luckily nobody ever got hurt, and I won't say the name of the place that I worked at or any of my bosses or any of that, but they got it. They were all super cool. They were just like, oh, and you can't throw snowballs from the lift. I mean, I know you're having fun. You're doing a great job. You just got a $30 tip or whatever, but you can't do that anymore. One time a kid, like we were going around this curve and they just like kept going straight and they just like went into the air and just like down into this big old snowy snowbank, and I kicked my skis off and like jumped in after them.
Yeah,
fortunately they
like
were fun.
Nightmare as a skier, right? Oh,
I miss skiing. It was so much fun. A friend of mine was telling me that she had gone, and I was so envious because I totally missed it. The kid was
Yeah.
fine, luckily. Like they were just like buried face first in the snow, you know, with their little legs kicking up, you know.
Oh, cute, cute. I was only actually telling we were talking about it last night. I was talking about it with my partner, and I remember the first time I went skiing, and I mean, I lost it, right? I lost control of everything. Here I am trying to do bloody pizza, right? But I didn't know how to do it. Little did I know you got to get your hips into it, right? Anyway, so I'm trying to stop. I'm going full ball, and I'm yelling out to people, please save me, help me. Anyway, sure enough, I literally thought I was going to die, and I like bolded into a group of people. I like tried to stop myself. I tried to jump on the ground, but I just slid right into them like a bowling ball. I really thought I was going to die. It was, oh God, it was scary.
Oh, it is scary. Yeah, the first time, like I only got to teach because I knew how to teach. Like I didn't know how to ski at all, and so I got this job, and they offered me the job. They were like, "Can you ski?" And I was like, "No." And they were like, "But can you teach?" And I was like, "Yes, I can teach. I
Oh,
can totally do that." They were like, "That's fine. We can teach you how to ski if you know how to teach." Because like the first time, my friends all took me to this really nice mountain in Tahoe, California, and we went up into the lift. And then they were like, all right, see you at the bottom. And I had no idea what I was doing. So I just would go, I was going straight down, just, you know, and I just kept passing the first aid, the patrol, you know, and they were looking at me like, well, he's next, you know, we're going to have to send
oh
him
no.
next. I would just tumble to stop.
Yeah.
I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know pizza, or I was just French fries the whole time. And when I got to the bottom of the hill, finally, like I was beat to death, you know,
Yeah.
just like red faced. I walked into like an ice cream shop at the bottom of the hill and asked for a water, and they gave me a water, and I reached into my pocket to grab like some money because I saw it cost money, and they were like, yeah, just take it. Just go ahead and take it. I like looked,
So bad.
yeah, I looked so bad, like dried, like snot and spit on my face, you know, with a beard. That's not, I look like a bum. And that's not what you want to look like on a fancy ski mountain. But it turned out to be like a really, really challenging experience. I was super sore the next day, but I ultimately wound up falling in love and really enjoying skiing. Little foray there, but I'm glad that you had similar similar experience on the slopes, because I think everybody can relate.
I
It's
know. Maybe that's just like a precursor. Like, get ready for it. If you've never done it, just get ready for a terrifying experience.
yeah.
Oh God.
The kids are so much better at it than the
Oh,
adults.
aren't they? They are little weapons. They
They
are.
are. Yeah, they pick it right up. Like in those when I wanted to teach adults, I was like, I want to teach adults. I feel, you know, like blah blah blah, and then I taught like 2 or 3 adults, and I was like, I am done. I want to teach the kids again, because like in 3 or 4 days they were like your little ducklings, you know. You'd be scooting down the mountain, flying V, nana nana boo
So
booing.
cute. I
Everybody
know.
didn't want to take a lesson because they're too cool for school, too cool for ski
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, and it's really interesting to think about people, especially, you know, younger people, and how they're motivated and what they're into, and how just awesome people are, you know, like with their sincere just being, you know, and they wear it on their sleeve, you know. They don't
Yeah.
know yet that they've got to conform to this matrix, you know.
Exactly. I know. God love their little hearts. They don't know. Exactly. Exactly.
Oh man, but yeah, because like I actually did some like trauma work with a friend of mine today. He works with me and other people, and I mean it almost always goes back to childhood. Anytime
Right?
we do any of that stuff, it's, you know, for me
Yeah.
today, I'll share, fuck. It was like one time I opened up a bag of Reese's Pieces candy,
Mm,
and the Reese's Pieces went all over the floor, you know.
mm,
And my mom got upset and was mad at me, and I that was like the experience that, you know, was kind of like we sort of regressed to in that whole
mm.
thing, and had to have some words, you know, with myself. I love that, like talking to your younger self, like sort of exercise
It's
is
cool,
very
huh? Yeah.
powerful. Yeah,
It
because
really.
you know, it's like there's a bunch of Reese's Pieces on the floor. So what? But you know,
Yeah.
mom doesn't know. Like mom's mom, she's right there. That's her, Faye. She was like, man, boy, she kept a very, very, very tight ship at her house. There was nothing on the floor. You could eat off those floors. And I wanted to eat off the floor, and mom wouldn't let me. You know, we should have been like, just like rolling around in the Reese's Pieces and throwing them up in the air, like Scrooge McDuck, you know, in the little money bank or whatever. But
Exactly.
that's not what happened. You know?
Yeah. And then it begs the question, why not?
Mhm.
And this is also a lot of the work what I choose to do with my clients is what are the expectations and the comparisons that you're trying to live up to? Like what was considered the norm for your mum that was so wrong, right? Was it not perfect? And then to be a good housewife or house mum, the floors have to be perfect. Like what was the dominant norm or the societal expectation that she was just too terrified to go against? All these little things. And that's what we are really, and I said it yesterday, we're really getting to crunch point. We're really getting to crisis point with the amount of comparison and expectations that parents and therefore children are trying to live up to. It's absolutely destroying relationships, and it's destroying our ability to be fully self-expressed and seen and heard. And it's a really important topic to talk about and to, bring to light. I mean, yeah, it's just a suffocation of who we are individually.
Yeah, it really is. This like it's not even like it's not even people's fault, but it just like
No,
comes down and comes down. And I had all these questions about God, what is it even called? It's like genetic. It's not even like genetic trauma, but just like bloodline healing or something like that.
yeah,
And which sounds like, you know, I'm gonna re-educate you, but really what it's getting at, and I didn't know this, right? I was like, we're gonna teach you, you know, how to view the world properly, like the way we see it. But really, what it's about is understanding, you know, that these sort of norms have been passed down generational and generational and generational. So it's not my mom's fault that she, you know, was in that position and wanted to, you know, have a clean and happy house. And people didn't really even, I don't think to even question those types of things as much. So it's like, it's nobody's fault. It's just that over time, like these systems,
yeah,
you know, they become more and more permanent, I guess. You know, it's those laws of hypnotic rhythm that have been established over time, and then they're just start to overlap over each other and then create this sort of matrix that we get to struggle with right now, which is fun.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Or we can understand it and play with it.
I like that. I like that a lot better. I think that would be, yeah, because I mean there's plenty of room, I think, for that as well. Understanding, playing, and yeah, and not necessarily fighting against, because obviously fighting against it, that just reinforces the problem. That's not.
Exactly. And that resistant energy will just further perpetuate the issue. So how can we just turn it into a game? Play with it.
I love that. Yeah, that's so good. Yep. And you know, like when we get to game theory, you know, that's kind of the whole idea, is that it is a game, and the only way to, you know, sort of win the game is to not like play it in the traditional sense, you know, to sort of sidestep the game, create a new game, you know, do something different,
Yeah.
which is really
Yeah.
cool. So can you talk a little bit about, like you were talking about, like how achievement creates dopamine in the Crusader. Can you talk about like the diplomat feelings and sort of, or do I have that backwards?
No, you got it. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And so the
Um,
diplomat, what is the motivation there and the type of
yeah.
chemicals that are created?
Yeah. So motivation for diplomats, because their dominant hormone is serotonin. So they're motivated by anything pleasurable. Okay. So they want everything to be steady. All right. They want everything to be in balance. They want everything, the environment around them to be calm, because that is when the serotonin can be released, right? And they can feel pleasure and pleasurable and good in their bodies. Um, they, what else was I just going to say? So they are the people that, like the name says, they are diplomatic. And why are they diplomatic? Well, if you think about it, if they want everything around them to be calm, why would they want to be involved in conflict? Why would they want anything to be out of order around them? So they are often the really good mediators. Okay. And then we've always got this beautiful shadow side of who we are. And the shadow side of that then is, because it feels good to be in a calm and steady environment, they're often building up resentment within them because they are foregoing their own desires and thoughts and opinions just to keep peace. And you can only do this for so long, right? It builds up and it builds up, and it's going to come out somehow or somewhere. So that's the shadow side. And so, because serotonin is processed in the gut, then gut health and gut issues are dramatically impacted and also important, right? So, and also, when we find out what hormone is in our body, we have priorities we adhere to if we are feeling out of balance or if we want optimal health. The first priority for a diplomat is place. So this is literally where they are. So nature is so good for them, and a slow paced morning. And that's just because it helps with the serotonin. That's it. So, exercise is not the number one priority for them. It's actually not the number one priority for a lot of health types, except for one, which is called the activator. And yet we focus so much on food and exercise. But actually, if we want to feel optimal, it's not necessarily the first priority for our bodies. For some, it can do more damage than good, especially if you're doing it at the wrong time of day. So that's also a beautiful part of understanding, is knowing what our priorities are then to reach that thriving optimal health point.
Man, that's so cool. Yeah, when you talk about the shadow of the diplomat, I felt a little bit attacked, to be honest with you. I am definitely a mediator type. I'm an INFP on the Myers-Briggs and a type 2 on the Enneagram.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Let me ask you a question. Do you like slower mornings? Do you like eating breakfast late?
Oh God, yeah. I almost never even eat breakfast. Like, I love a slow morning. I like to lay in bed for extra time and just
yeah. Because I can tell by looking at people, obviously, because we're measuring the skeletal system, I can tell. And I would say there's a high probability that you are a diplomat, I reckon.
Yeah, that sounds right. Could you talk about what the other types are? So we've got the diplomats, the activator you just mentioned, and then the crusader.
Yeah. So we've spoken about the diplomat and the crusader, the activator. These guys, these are the little weapons, okay, and the big weapons, and that's because the dominant hormone running through this body is adrenaline. Okay, so you can imagine then, what children do you think get the biggest rap negatively in school? These guys, because they need to move. Oh, they need to move. And what's our school designed for? Well, it's designed for our senses, which is another health type, which are the little people and big little people that have their dominant hormone is vasopressin, and they are the logical straighty 180s usually, where they like detail, structure, routine, and they will sit and listen because they enjoy it. They feel safe in that environment. Their body is heavily geared towards safety. Their nervous system is on high alert all the time because they need to feel safe. Okay, so the activators, they require movement, they require lots of food, they're governed by adrenaline, which means their behaviors can appear quite aggressive to people, quite forceful to people because of the energy coming through. When you consider that adrenaline is one of the fight flight response hormones, then what do you expect from these little people? They have an abundant amount of energy. Now, shadow side of that, well, they don't often stop, and they need to stop because that nervous system needs to rest, right? And then we've got guardians. They're think of these people as your beautiful Italian nonnas. Okay, that's their body shape too. All right, their dominant hormone is prolactin. Now, prolactin is the nurturing hormone. It's the hormone that is responsible for a woman's ability to breastfeed. It's the nurturing hormone. Okay, now if that is your dominant hormone, regardless of breastfeeding and having children, then your main focus is other people. This is completely opposite to a crusader. Okay. When you've got high amounts of prolactin, you've actually got really low amounts of dopamine. You don't want to achieve for yourself. You want to make sure that your family is safe and secure and happy and well. That's it. Now, these guys, their body is built to store energy, which means this is where their cravings come from, right? And their ability to be bigger than us. And that's because if they feel anything is off in their environment with the people they love the most, then their body is like, all right, we've got to go to work. Where's my energy? So these guys are the strongest, and these guys and gals are, they have the ability to be the most energized because they get more nutrients out of their food than any other health type. Okay. And then we've got connectors. Now, these little guys and gals, they're run by oxytocin, okay, which is the connection hormone. They are driven by fun, color, variety, connecting with people. They are energized by being around people, whereas sensors and crusaders they flat out, their energy drops down to the ground when they're around people. But connectors are more in their body, okay? They're more feelings based, and they increase in energy when they're around people because their oxytocin increases. Person to person, touch to touch, affection, chat, feeling love, feeling liked by people, that increases your oxytocin. So that's that's connectors. And then sensors I've already mentioned as well. So that's all of them. That's all 6 of them now.
Okay, so there's 6. Yeah, that was my next question, is like how many? And that's really cool. So I'll ask you this question. Is it possible to change from one to another over the course of lifetime or several years?
Yeah, good question. So up until the age of 18, you've got a primary and a secondary, and this is just because they're still young and they're still developing. Chances are they're going to stick in the primary column. Now, when you're an adult, say for me, for instance, so I'm close to a sensor. I'm close. Now, my lifestyle would, it depends on your lifestyle. So if your lifestyle dramatically changes, or there is a huge traumatic event, so trauma can heavily impact this. However, it's not likely that you will jump more than a couple of points in each section.
Okay.
Okay. It's not likely that I'm going to go over to Guardian. Not a chance. Not a chance in this world. So maybe when I have a baby, my prolactin might increase more then, and I will be more focused on another person. However, that will be short-lived. Okay. Because I'm going to go back to wanting to achieve, but also what can I achieve within my motherhood then, right? It just means that my goals change.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it works.
Yeah. Do you know your Enneagram type by chance?
Which one is this? What are the options?
So there's 9 different types on the Enneagram. And so it's I only learned of it a couple of years ago, and actually it's really good for like writing narrative devices as well. So as far as archetypes, and Gurdjieff was obsessed, and the Homer's Odyssey goes to 9 places. Each one of those is representative of one of the Enneagram types. So there's 9 of those, but so I'm more familiar with that, but I'm super interested in this as well. I'd love to I would guess you're maybe a 3 on the Enneagram. What's cool about it is it kind of shows you, and kind of like epigenetics is here. It's like, this is your motivation, right? Like there's a lot of personality types. And it's like you said at the beginning of the interview, let's be careful putting ourselves into so many boxes or categorizing or labeling ourselves, because what good is that at the end of the day? Like we're each this beautiful individual expression of God or infinity or whatever we want to call that. And glad to be on the same page about that, by the way. But it really highlights the motivation of each sort of personality type within that. And it's something that you can study for like a long, 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 long time.
Yeah.
And there's definitely like different subtypes of the type and wings and all this. I mean, it's a lot, but it's very interesting. And I have a couple friends who are really good at understanding more about that, but it seems like they would kind of overlap and overlay in some ways. So, I would guess, and I'm not an expert on the Enneagram. I like to guess because I'm learning, because it's fun for writing, especially for like writing narrative and stuff like that. But it seems like, some of these would kind of correlate. And that's why I ask, is it possible to sort of change over time. You know, I think astrology is an interesting tool as well, but again, it's really easy to get wrapped up in that and just be like, well, my horoscope says I'm lazy, so I'm just going to be lazy now. Well, no, I
Yeah.
think these tools are for us to help to understand ourselves, but to improve and to transcend, you
Yeah.
know, like putting ourselves definitions on ourselves. So that I just,
Yeah. And the most successful humans are the humans that are most quick to adapt and also have the ability to be flexible in their behavior.
love it.
So there's a point where, you know, I've learned my epigenetics and I'm still learning. However, there's a point where I need to transcend my epigenetics, right? I need to make a choice then. So, you know, this week then I've made choices to go out for dinners with friends. Does this come naturally to me? No, it does not. Connection is my last priority because it's actually in my brain and my body. It's an inconvenience to me achieving my goal and my mission. Okay, I'm on my mission. So, because again, I don't have that high level of prolactin, that nurturing or connection hormone. I just don't. So I have to make conscious choices then. Message a friend, call my family, go out and have a social event or connect. That's conscious for me. So this is not about staying in my lane or staying in whatever lane or whatever label you've got. It's about how do you transcend it once you've learned it, because then you get to choose whatever human being you desire to be, as long as it's coming from you and nobody else.
Yeah, I get the like sort of Braveheart vibe from you, which I love, by the way. I think it's awesome. You're just like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to show people, you know, I love
I
that.
know, it's like, oh God, disclaimer, I talk super fast and probably super loud.
No, I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I think you're being very sincere and authentic, and I admire and respect that. I think it's really cool. My last question, I guess, would be: is there a way, or do you have anything that you sort of offer as like a small ebook or like a PDF or something that would kind of outline these types so that people could get a little bit more information about it?
Oh, totally. So I've got a couple of videos if you want a few masterclasses on
Awesome.
how this is about children and their meltdowns and behaviors. And then also I've got a PDF that can give you the outline, no problem. Whatever, just I have a few resources that I can just shoot through. If you do want that, then I mean, my email, jessica@jessicamcilveen.com. Also, I mean, I've got social media everywhere: Instagram, jessica.mcilveen, Jessica McIlveen. On Facebook, I've got private and business. Private is more active. So yeah, they're probably the best channels to get in contact with me. The website's getting redone, so
Okay. Okay.
I
Yeah.
think
I
now
look.
keep the best channels.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so heard it here, folks. That is a open invitation to solicit for information.
Yeah,
But
go for it. Come
yeah,
at me.
I'm trying to use my big words just to sound smart. But no, I think that's lovely. Do you have like a where are the videos stored?
Where are they? Yeah, so I will just send. So I have them
Okay.
all uploaded on YouTube.
Okay,
So
perfect.
I'll be sending you links and stuff
Yeah,
to
that's
them.
awesome. If you want to just do that, then I'll put that all in the show notes so that you don't get bombarded by, you know, a bunch of new fans, you know, because this podcast, like you're blowing up, the podcast is blowing up. It's going to, you know, so I don't want to overwhelm you. You've got so many books to read. And so I want to make sure that you have time to
Yeah,
relax. You know, you're on your quest, but you've got to rest. You've got to transcend your epigenetics, and I
I
believe
know.
you can do it.
Yes, yes, I
All the
can do it.
fans.
I've ticked my connection box off today by having this conversation. I'm done for the day. I'm done. It's over. I'll take a
That's,
sleep and then I'll be okay.
that's awesome. Very cool. Yeah. And you know, I'll be here, you know, just making sure my roommate's cool and we weren't too loud since I'm a diplomat. So that'll work.
I wonder what he is though. Interesting. I wonder if he's similar to you or different.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. He's a cool guy. Kind of keeps to himself and works a lot. So I have the house is open a lot, so I do like weird stuff in here during the
Yeah.
afternoon. You know, burning incense and you know all
Yeah.
kinds of you know hippie shit.
Yeah, cool. Cool.
It is what
Yeah.
it is. I'm not going to apologize for it. But yeah, oh my gosh, Jessica, I think that you are awesome and I'm really inspired by you. I appreciate you taking the time and doing this interview, and I'll put those links in the show notes if you want to just send them over. That way, I can put them in here and people can check them out. We can all learn more about epigenetics, and yeah, I'll have links for your email as well in there. Super cool conversation, and I'll also throw out there that if there's anything I can do for you, and I would hope that you would reach out because I love to do that. And if I, think of you or can connect you to anyone else, and I'm happy to do that as well. And so thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been like a ball of fun. It's probably like the funnest podcast I've ever done. So this is awesome. Thank you so much.
Love that.
And
That's what I want to hear. Yeah,
yeah,
right on.
good.
Cool.
And thanks for everyone tuning in. Thank you for listening. And yeah, I'm here to chat, connect. Yeah, maybe not all day, but I will connect with you if you reach out to me.
That is very cool. Yeah, and keep doing the Lord's work. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Cheers.